Hi everybody. So welcome to this Support Expert Thursday. My name is Bastian. I'm Senior and Designated Support Engineer, and I've been working at Qlik for about 2 years now. I would say that my main area of expertise is about Qlik Sense and printing. So in today's session, we will talk about keeping your Qlik Sense installation current. Great. So the point I should highlight first, there is an online documentation on our website called help.qlik.com, providing all the information you need to proceed with a successful upgrade. As shown on the screenshot, make sure you have selected the correct version of Qlik Sense to not get irrelevant information. So today we are not going to go through this level of detail, but I just wanted to make sure you were aware that this exists. During the presentation, I will refer and show you all the relevant page and how to access them on this documentation, so you can come back to it later on. So the plan for today is to first summarize the changes implemented in our Qlik Sense release policy since Qlik Sense June 2017. So that you can get a better understanding and why also we are talking about patches and not service release anymore for Qlik Sense. We will then go through the different steps you need to take to guarantee a successful upgrade or successful patch of your Qlik Sense environment. An important point for each upgrade or patch is to have a rollback plan. So we will discuss this topic as well here. Finally, we will talk about some common issue and how to troubleshoot them if you experience any issue during your upgrade or patch of your environment. So as you may have noticed, the release policy for Qlik Sense has changed from Qlik Sense June 2017. If you want to have more detail about it, so you can go to our website qlik.com. At the bottom of the main page, you will get license and terms. So if we click there, this should take us to another page. Perfect. So if we scroll down a little bit here, in additional terms, Qlik Sense release management policy for Qlik Sense QAP and printing. So this will download the PDF for you with all the details. So for Qlik Sense, we now talk about release, scheduled patch, and licensee patch. So what does that mean exactly? A release may include new as well as enhanced features, new fixes, or changes to supported environment. A scheduled patch may include new fixes to the most recent release or change to supported environments. And finally, the licensee patch is a customer-specific fix for a business critical defect. So on this slide, you can see a diagram summarizing the cadence for releases and patch. So releases are scheduled approximately every 10 weeks. Then you get patch that are approximately released every 3 weeks until the next release is made generally available. And finally, additional patches or licensee patch may be made available at Qlik's discretion for up to 24 months from the date of the current release. Great, so let's talk about the upgrade now. So when we talk about upgrade, we talk about upgrade to the next release, basically. So we're not talking about patch yet. So before upgrading your Qlik Sense environment, you will need to ask yourself the correct question to make sure you know your environment well enough to proceed further. The correct question could be, which version am I running? Which version I want to upgrade to? Which operating system Qlik Sense is running on? Am I using a single node environment, so only one central node, or a multi-node environment with RIM node? Am I using shared persistence or synchronized persistence? And do I know the required credential for the service account for the Postgre database or the Qlik login database? Once you have the correct information, you can start checking the different requirements on help.qlik.com. to make sure that the version you are going to upgrade to is following the specification that you have on your environment. So you can first check the system requirements on this online documentation for the version you wish to upgrade to. For example, since Qlik since June 2017, Windows Server 2008 and 2008 R2 is not supported anymore. So to look at this system requirement page for QlikSense, you can go to help.qlik.com. Once again, make sure that you select the correct version here. You can go to deploy, planning your deployment, and system requirements for QlikSense. And you will get all the requirements you need to fulfill to be able to upgrade to this version. So once you made sure that your environment will support the new version of QlikSense, you can then start looking into the upgrade process. So the main topic on this subject will be to know first on which version you are going to upgrade, because there are two different processes. If you are running an earlier version than QlikSense 3.1.2, or if you are running 3.1.2 or later. So you can also see those two different processes on help.qlik.com. Under deploy, QlikSense upgrades and upgrading. And here you can see two different pages, upgrading from QlikSense 3.1.2 or later, or upgrading to QlikSense June 2017 or later from QlikSense version earlier than 3.1.2. So it's very, very important to be aware of that. In case you are starting from QlikSense 3.1.2 or later, you will need to know if you are using synchronized persistence or shared persistence. You will get two different processes in this case. As a reminder, the synchronized persistence feature do not exist anymore starting from QlikSense June 2017. So to get the process how to migrate from synchronized to shared persistence, so you can go also on help.qlik.com under deploy, QlikSense upgrade and update, upgrading and migrating from synchronized to shared persistence. So there are some steps to take in order to make the upgrade success. If you are not yet familiar with synchronized persistence and or shared persistence, you can watch our previous support expert Thursday about this topic specifically. I will share the link with you at the end of this session. So this might sound already logical for most of you, but it's very important to have a plan in case of something goes wrong. Upgrading your environment will perform a lot of change at the file or application level. So if something goes wrong in the middle, it might be very difficult and even sometimes impossible to recover. So the need to have backup is extremely recommended, and in my own opinion, I would say even mandatory. If your environment is running on a virtual machine, I know that some customers prefer to only take a snapshot of their virtual machine. I would recommend in any case to take as well a cold backup of your QlikSense environment, as explained in our documentation. So this is not only useful to you in case of rollback, but it can be also useful for us at support to reproduce your problem in the exact same context. So if you don't know already, to get this procedure, you can go to help.qlik.com again. Under deploy, you have backup and restore QlikSense, and finally backup QlikSense site. So the backup process will allow you to backup the repository database, the certificates, and the necessary files like your application, your extension, app content, etc. So finally, we know it's not always possible, but because of different constraints, but we highly recommend to test your upgrade. Perfect. So I would like to present you the environment we are gonna working on today for a couple of demonstrations. So this is just this is a very simple environment with only one node. So here is the QMC. So we assume that this environment is working completely fine, so we can access the hub, we can open up, and so on. So don't try to run an upgrade or a patch on an already broken environment. This could just make things worse. So we see that we have only one node with the services running. In this demonstration, we will assume that we have taken care of every backup in order to not lose too much time. But we'll come back to this later. So as mentioned before, a patch may include, so I'm going to talk a little bit more about patch right now. So a patch may include new fixes to the most recent release or changes to supported environment. A patch is a cumulative, meaning that you, for example, the fix included in Qlik since September patch 1, those fixes will also be included in Qlik since September patch 2, plus additional fixes, of course. Only one patch can be installed at a time. So before installing patch 2, patch 1 will need to be uninstalled. A patch can be installed and uninstalled, unlike releases. So if after installing a patch you are not satisfied with a behavior or a certain fix, you can simply uninstall this patch without the need of rolling back as described in the upgrade process. A patch is deployed on top of the release. So if you are doing a fresh installation of Qlik Sense and you want to install the latest patch, so you will need to first install the release. So for instance, Qlik Sense September 2017, and then in addition, install the patch that you want. It's required to keep the version aligned between the nodes, so you will need to patch every node of your environment. And finally, a patch needs to be executed with an administrator account, as we require the possibility to modify files on the operating system, for example. Installing a patch might sound easy, but there are still some precautions or things to consider before installing it. The first step, I would say, will be to check the release note and our online documentation, as it contains useful information about the requirement for this patch, the provided fixes, the process to install it, etc. So the release note, you can download it on our download site. And I'm going to show you here how to get more information on our online documentation. So again, if you go to deploy, Qlik Sense upgrade and update, and here you will get patching Qlik Sense. So you will get the full process that we are going to go through today. Perfect. So as always, we strongly recommend to take a backup of your Qlik Sense environment before installing a patch in case you need to roll back. So you can follow the exact same process that I showed you before to take a backup of your Qlik Sense environment. Stop the service manually will decrease the risk that something goes wrong during the installation process, like the installer not being able to stop the services because those services are stuck, or if you have any antivirus locking some file, or any kind of environment issue, for instance. So we recommend to stop manually the services before you install the patch. As a recommendation, you can also uninstall any previous patch to decrease the risks that something goes wrong, but we will come back to this during our demonstration later on. So you should now be good to go with the installation. So this is what we are going to do in our demo right now. So currently my Qlik Sense environment is obviously running. So the first thing I want to do is to stop the services. So let's go to the service console. So we'll stop the logging database. Perfect. Ending proxy. The scheduler. Might take some time. Hopefully it's not stuck. Perfect. repository and dispatcher at the end. Perfect. So we want to make sure that we don't have any previous patch installed on this environment. So to get the list of Qlik patch installed, you can go to Control Panel, Program and Features, and then View Installed Updates. So here we can see Qlik September 2017 in the installed program. So this is just the release here. If I want to see if any patch is installed, I need to go to the installed update. Just wait a couple of seconds and this loads. Yeah, that should be fine. So here we can only see Microsoft related updates, nothing about Qlik. So that means I don't have any patch, so I don't need to take care of this step. So let's close this. Here is my installer for my patch. So I can verify that by right-clicking Properties. If I go to Detail, I can see Qlik September 2017 patch 2. So just a simple right-click, run as administrator to make sure we have the highest privileges. And then we will update. So to install a patch, you don't need to care about the service account credential, the Postgre database credential. Normally you shouldn't need them. You just need them for an upgrade to a major release. So here it's going to confirm, so the services are already stopped, so that should be a quick step here, and that should be a success as well, hopefully. And here it's going to update the file. Perfect. So the patch process is quite fast to run. The only thing is, as we have stopped the services manually before, we need to start them back manually as well. So I'll just do this and we'll go back to our presentation. Perfect, repository. Take some time. Hopefully it's going to start. Let's see. Okay, let's go back. Okay, it started now. Perfect. So let's start the rest. Perfect. So we let this start. So let's talk about the rollback plan now. So we will not go into details regarding all the backup possibilities that can be implemented in your environment, such as snapshot, as I discussed before, or full server backup, or incremental server backup. I will just focus on what Qlik provides in terms of backup and rollback possibilities. Talking about upgrade and patch, the backup process is the same as mentioned before and described on our online documentation. This will allow you to back up, as I said, the sense certificate, the repository database, and the Qlik files like application, extension, etc. So this is all you need to rebuild your environment if something goes wrong. If you upgrade from a major release to another one and need to revert back for some reason, like upgrade failure or feature missing, then you will need to follow our restore procedure described on our online documentation and based on the backup I've talked about earlier. So to access this documentation, you can simply go to help.qlik.com once again, under deploy, backup and restore Qlik, and finally restoring a Qlik site. So those steps describe all you have to do to basically restore your environment based on the backup you have taken before following this process. If you just want to remove a patch, if you just want to roll back from a patch installation, the procedure is then simpler. You can stop the services on all the nodes and uninstall the patch. Of course, we recommend to take a backup as well before doing such step. To uninstall a patch, you can either rerun the patch installer and choose uninstall, or you can also go to Control Panel, Programming Features, View Installed Update, and there you will be also able to install it. Sorry. If a patch was previously installed, you will need to reinstall it, of course. So let's say that you are going from Qlik September 2017 patch 1 to Qlik September 2017 patch 2. If you want to roll back, to patch 1, sorry, so you will need to uninstall patch 2 and reinstall patch 1, because this one will have been installed by the patch 2 installation, basically. So let's see quickly on our demo how to roll back from a patch installation. So I should have my services running here. We'll just check that we have access to the QMC, which is alright, perfect. Okay. So I'll just reduce this. So as I said, the first step will be to take a backup, but we will assume that this is already be done. So we will just stop the services. Hopefully that should be a little bit quicker. Scheduler. So this is why we really recommend to stop the services manually. You can see that sometimes some of the services can take some time. So if there is a timeout, for example, in Windows, there is a default timeout of 30 seconds. So if you reach this timeout, Windows will just assume that it failed, and this might just abort your upgrade. Perfect. So let's close this. So as I said before, so two ways to install a patch. So either I rerun the same installer, so like here, and then you will get the option to remove it, or you can go to Control Panel, Program and Features, View Installed Update, sorry, and here we can now see the patch. So let's try to uninstall it. Remove. So we are going to go through the same steps, trying to stop the services, but as it's already done, it should be fairly quick. Perfect, and now it's rolling back to the original files, basically. So we get the previous behavior. Perfect. The only thing we have to do as well is to start the services again, because those are still down as we have stopped them manually. Perfect. Repository is starting. And then we can start the rest. Good, so we leave this on site for now. Perfect. So yeah, as you could see, installing and uninstalling a patch is fairly quick, very easy to do, but I really recommend you to take a backup before doing anything. Perfect, so let's go to the troubleshooting steps. So if anything goes wrong during an upgrade, or a patch, the first things to do is to check the installation log to find out the root cause. Those logs can be found in the user profile temp folder. So in those logs, you will find most likely the root cause of the issue by searching the key string error code 1603. You should then be able to find the root cause of the problem. So if we go back to our virtual machine here, so you need to be connected as the user who has tried to upgrade or install the patch. If you open Windows Explorer here, there is a Windows system variable called %temp%. So this will redirect you directly to the user temp folder. So usually you go to a subfolder with a number here. So just go back to temp, and you will get a bunch of files. Sorry. If we sort those by date, so we can see that has passed for today. So we've got a log Qlik sense update. So this contains all the information about the installation we have just done. So there is no really any point to look at this one for now because this was a successful patch. But I have exported for you a log with an upgrade attempt that failed from Qlik sense June 2017 patch 3 to Qlik sense November 2017. So the upgrade failed, and we got this log as a result. So if we open this log and search basically for error code 1603, so here we could find it here. Perfect. So we found this key, this string here. So the idea now is to check what happened. So if we look at the 4 last line here, so those are the relevant one for this log at least. So we could see that we were trying to uninstall patch, right? Here we get the action uninstalling patch, and patch was uninstalling with exit code -1, which is basically meaning that there was an exception. And finally, you can see here CA uninstall patch return actual error code 1603. So as I said before, this was an attempt from Qlik sense June 2017 patch 3 to November. So we could clearly see that the installer for some reason failed to uninstall the patch. So the workaround for this issue was just, as I explained you before, to uninstall the patch manually and then run the upgrade again, and it worked. So yeah, so you can search this string in this log, and you will most likely find the root cause of your problem. So in any case, if the upgrade or patch failed, the installer will most likely roll back. So it's important to check in which state your Qlik sense environment is. So try to start the services and access the QMC and the hub to make sure everything works as expected. If you have been able to identify the root cause of your issue by looking into the logs, then make sure that you understand or fix the problem before running the upgrade or the patch installer again. If the rollback left your environment in a non-working state, you can then apply the restore procedure we have seen before and documented on help.qlik.com. So I'm going to list here a list of common causes that could make your upgrade or patch failing. So the most common one would be, I would say, the wrong password during the upgrade. So in general, the service account credentials are verified during the installation, before the installation, sorry. So that shouldn't be a problem. But if you stop the Qlik sense services, the installer will have no way to check the Postgre password. So what I would recommend in this case is to try before running the upgrade process, try to access your Qlik sense database using pgadmin to make sure that the password you have is correct. You can find how to connect using pgadmin in our knowledge base. So if you go to the support portal, you should find an article explaining this. Another cause could be the service failed to stop, as mentioned before. But if you stop them manually, then that's how you will avoid such problem. Sorry. So enable to install uninstall previous patch. So this is the example we have discussed about before. So you can uninstall manually your patch. And one other thing will be a file locked by a third-party process, such as antivirus or backup system running at that time. Or if you have any kind of Windows update or software update running at the same time your QlikSense installer is running. I'm gonna list here the links that we use in today's session. You can see also here the link to the STT. Moving to shared persistence. Sorry. So those links will be provided along with the recording of the session as well. So you will be able to go back to all those links later on. So thank you very much for paying attention. It's now time for the Q&A. So if you have any question, you can just write them down in the chatter.
Okay, so everyone at this time, please try and locate the Q&A panel in the bottom right corner of your WebEx. And Bastian will take a look at what's coming in there, and I see some things are coming in now, and see how many of those he can address. We're running a little short on time, so if we're not able to address your question today in live, we'll be able to address some of those offline and post them with the recording along with the answers afterwards.
Great, so I'll just take one of the last one. Can we automate the backup process using PowerShell script? So the answer is yes. You can just look at the backup process. You can run everything through command lines. You will just need to adapt your command to do some copy with command lines, but then the backup of the repository database, you already have the command that are provided in help.qlik.com. So you should be able to make that work. Perfect. So let's take another one. Is there a specific order to stop and start the QlikSense services? So we recommend to stop first the proxy engine, printing, and scheduler. So there is no specific order for those. And then you can stop the repository service and database, and finally the dispatcher. To start the services, it's just the reverse basically. So you start with the dispatcher, then the repository database and service, and finally the other services which are proxy, engine, printing, and scheduler. So should we always uninstall previous patch before new one? So this is just a recommendation. If you don't uninstall your patch before installing the new one, the installer will try to uninstall it. But as I said, if for any reason the installer cannot make that step, then your patch will fail to be installed basically. What can we do if an upgrade or patch is successful, but we can't access the hub or QMC? So that's a good question. That's something we haven't talked about during the troubleshooting slide, sorry. So if your upgrade or patch is successful, but you can't access to the hub or the QMC, so then it's important first to have an understanding of the purpose of each services. So which service you need to, for instance, access the QMC. So to access the QMC, you will only need to have the repository, database, and service up and running, as well with the proxy service. So knowing this, the next step will be to check the QlikSense log, which are not in the temp folder in this case, but by default they are located in C, program data. QlikSense and then log. So the first service that you will need to check, I would say, will be the repository one. So if the repository does not start correctly, the proxy won't start as well. So if you go to repository and usually trace and systems, are giving most of the information. And here you should see error. So we don't see any right now because my environment is running fine, but this is where I will look first. Then you can check if this one is okay and you still don't have access to the QMC, then you can check the proxy service. Same thing, so trace and finally system. So you should get more information here as well. Can we use the restore process to test the upgrade or patch on a different machine? So that's a good question as well. So if you want to test your upgrade or your patch before running it into your production machine, and you want to run this test in the same context as your production environment is running on, so yes, you can use our restore process. I'll just bring it up once again. So if you want to restore your Qlik Sense environment on a different machine, there is just an extra step, which is documented here, restoring a central node to a machine with a different host name. So you need to take care of this in order to have your test environment working. I would also recommend you to contact your account manager to get a test license as well, because you can't have two environments with the same license. So you can contact your account manager to get those test license if needed. Okay, so do we need to stop the services on all the node to install a patch? The answer is yes. You will need to stop the services on all the node before, and then you will start to patch your central node. Once your central node is patched, so I will recommend you to just start the services on the central node, make sure that your environment is working, and finally you can install the patch on your RIM node and start the services again. But yeah, you will need to stop the services on all the node before running the patch.
We hope you enjoyed the session, and big thanks to Bastian for presenting. We always appreciate getting experts like Bastian to share with us. Here is our legal disclaimer. And once again, thank you everyone, and have a great rest of your day.